Well, let's get more now on the ongoing debate about fracking, which seems to be gathering in volume as every month goes by. The government has very definitely put its weight behind a future in which it sees a sizable proportion of the UK energy provided by shale gas. But regardless of the environmental concerns, does the science really add up? Well, we're joined now by Dr. Steve Fawkes, a former government energy advisor, and with me in the studio, Charles Perry, a sustainability expert and co-founder of SecondNature. Very good evening to you both. Charles Perry, does the science add up? Does it make sense? Are we going to get fracking shale gas without damaging the environment?
Well, at SecondNature, we focus on what is sustainable. And by sustainable, we look at it from what is sustainable for society, what is sustainable for the environment, and what is sustainable for the economy. So I think if your viewers could think about fracking in terms of sustainability, because there's a short-term and a long-term picture. And the question is, where is the UK headed in the long term? The beginning of this year, we were expecting the launch of the Energy Act. We've been waiting for 2 years for the Energy Act. A lot of us have helped with that. And the question is, what is the vision and the strategy to transform Britain's energy to a sustainable system?
Dr. Hawkes, clearly shale gas from fracking has had considerable benefits in the United States. It's now done on a pretty major scale across there. It looks good here, but can it work on the same scale? Are the benefits for us, or is it much more environmentally difficult?
Well, we know the resource is there, or we're beginning to explore that resource. We don't actually know yet how economic it will be or how easy it will be to exploit. That's a large part of the exploration work that's going on at the moment. But in terms of the science, I think given the right regulatory regime, we can extract it in an environmentally sound way. You know, there are concerns and they need to be addressed, but it's a big energy resource. We need to use more of our indigenous resources to address the energy crisis that we're facing. And those crises are in electricity supply. We have a shortage and a declining supply margin. And we also have a huge fuel poverty problem where people can't afford their energy bills at the moment. And we also have the balance of payments problem, where in 2012, we spent £24 billion importing energy, and we can't continue to do that.
Charles Perry, that's quite a compelling argument, certainly the energy security, the fact that we would have some control over more of our own energy, and yet I get the feeling you feel that's a bit of a short-term quick fix,
well,
do you?
Energy autonomy is absolutely key, as Stephen has said. And so energy autonomy for the UK is, okay, what is clean, what is safe, what is affordable, and what is sustainable, as I've already mentioned. And the short-term picture is one of we don't sort of need to grasp at quick fixes, because there is no silver bullet to solving this problem. What we need is a mix of technologies that are clean and safe and affordable and sustainable. And then the question is, you know, to what extent does fracking fit into that or not? Here we've got an announcement where the government is actually giving tax breaks and subsidies, so, you know, taxpayers' money to fracking across the whole country. And that just seems, you know, given what little we know about fracking in the UK and what we do know about other technologies like solar and wind and other renewable technologies, ground source, hydro schemes, you know, why is it that we're just picking one technology to subsidize here?
Well, let's ask Stephen Fawkes that. Is it a short-term quick fix, or does it make sense in the broader long-term plan of providing for our autonomous energy needs?
Well, I think in the energy world, even short-term is probably measured in a decade or so. And even if everything went really well for the shale industry in the UK and we started to exploit it, it's probably a 10-year story starting from now, maybe a 20-year story. So in that time frame, you know, other technologies will come along, renewables will get cheaper, but we are subsidizing renewables to a very large extent. We can't continue to subsidize everything forever. At some point, we need to have economic technologies. And, you know, solar, as Charles has said, has a role to play. gas has a role to play, but even if we have economic renewables, there is still the problem of intermittency. And the way to deal with that is with rapid response gas-fired power plants and ultimately storage. But storage isn't quite there yet. So even in the 10, 20-year time frame, even if the renewables become much cheaper and more common, we're still going to need gas to meet that intermittent demand.
Charles Perry, the one thing that comes through from the protesters who go out and try and stop exploration work happening is kind of an emotional argument about the environmental damage it's going to do. It's going to poison our water and create earthquakes. Is there a reality to that, or is that just scare stuff?
Well, I've worked in energy for 20 years, and I'd say that even in my position, I don't know all the answers when it comes to fracking. I mean, fracking is quite an unknown. And in terms of the country as a whole, we haven't really tried and tested it. Yes, in America, they're ahead of us in terms of pilots and commerciality around fracking. Here, we're just starting. So to sort of blanket subsidize the whole country with payments to councils to frack, I think just seems to be jumping the gun a bit, especially when we're waiting for a clear strategy from government in terms of the holistic picture. Now, I gave evidence to the Energy Audit Committee last year, and on one of Stephen's points, I would disagree. For example, we're actually subsidizing fossil fuels at least 4 to 5 times what we're subsidizing renewables in the UK. So, the government is committed actually to phasing out fossil fuel subsidies. It's a G20 commitment for the UK government to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. And what we're actually doing here is increasing subsidies for fossil fuels. I would also just like
Okay, now I'm afraid we've just run out of time, but I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about this for months and years to come. Charles Perry, Stephen Fawkes, thank you both very much for opening the debate today.